Hey everyone, welcome to the Adam Kovic.
And I'm Bruce Greene.
We know a lot of you guys have fallen to the dark side lately, getting very salty about Battlefront.
Yep.
There aren't enough maps, there's no battles in space, this just costs too much money. We hear you.
Hard to say you were wrong when it comes to the Metacritic score, though. Right now, the game's sitting in the low to mid 70s on Metacritic, depending on which platform you're looking at.
There's plenty of them. But has all the hate and suffering been vindicated by low sales numbers? That's actually an interesting question. Maybe, possibly.
No, it kind of is. By appearances, the answer is yes. Well, that's kind of confusing. Yes, the game sold bad? Is that what we're saying? Maybe. Fuck it. Let's just move on. We're going to get there. It's kind of strange. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, move on. So let's start with what EA has actually said about the game. Take it away, Lawrence.
Okay, so EA Executive Vice President Patrick Soderlund posted an article yesterday on the official Battlefront blog. Oh, that's a hard one to get through. Battlefront blog. Yeah, throws out a few achievements right off the top. He claims that Star Wars Battlefront is not only EA's largest digital launch in the company's history, but it's also the biggest Star Wars game launch ever.
Wow.
We did it.
Oh, that's, I think they sold 20 million copies in a week.
Yeah, that might be what that means. So, like, that sounds impressive. But something about qualifying a game's performance that way always kind of tips off my internal bullshit alarm. In the past, publishers always put out specific numbers. They'd say, oh, we shipped 20 million, we sold through 8 million. And it would always be in terms of millions. Whether it's ship or sell through, they would put a hard number to the performance.
Right.
And typically when that doesn't happen, you're looking at some PR spin. They want to find some angle of the game's performance that was record-setting in some kind of way, so it sounds better than it didn't do as good as it did last year.
And this Disturbance of the Force is more than just a gut feeling, too. You boys like Star Wars jokes? There's plenty more coming.
I do.
So earlier this week, GameStop announced that Battlefront performed well under expectations, even ones they've already lowered.
Yeah, so GameStop COO Tony Bartel said, quote, "We had high expectations that diminished somewhat as it got closer, and then it failed to hit those lowered expectations."
Bartel did qualify this by saying that, quote, "We expect Star Wars to be one of the strongest titles for the holiday season.
Makes sense.
So we expect it to get back towards on track for our expectations."
So on the surface, we've got a seemingly dodgy announcement about the game's performance and a huge games retailer saying that sales are sucking balls. Sounds pretty open and shut, right? I think it kind of makes sense from both sides, but not really, right?
Not really, mostly because we're in a huge state of transition right now with the way games are sold and how publishers earn revenue.
Yeah, let's start by looking at EA's statements that it's the biggest Star Wars game launch and that it's the biggest digital launch for the company. Lawrence, go ahead.
So those two claims have different weight, and oddly being the biggest Star Wars game launch isn't really as impressive as it sounds. Star Wars games don't actually sell all that well. By our research, the previous sales record for a Star Wars game goes to The Force Unleashed, which sold 1.5 million units in its launch week.
Wow.
Yeah, at the time, that made Force Unleashed, quote, both the fastest-selling Star Wars game and LucasArts game ever. And that's according to a release by LucasArts.
And before you hearken Battlefront 2 again, Force Unleashed released in 2008, while Battlefront 2 released in 2005. So if Force Unleashed set a fastest-selling record in 2008, it must have sold faster than Battlefront 2 in 2005.
Makes sense to us, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Sure, whatever. So Force Unleashed 2 also sold 500,000 copies in its first 2 weeks, so no record-breaking going on there.
Yep.
And while we couldn't find sales data for Connect Star Wars, we're going to go ahead and assume it did not break the 1.5 million units in a week either.
I thought, Lawrence, didn't you buy like 10 copies of that game?
No. I mean, so sometimes I listen, it's a charitable time of year, and you want to go out and you want to save a kid from a bad experience like getting Connect Star Wars. So, yeah, I did throw a lot of money at copies of the game. I distributed them around the world.
Yeah.
It's kind of a where in the world is Carmen Sandiego situation, but for a bad, shitty Connect game.
So based on EA's claim that Star Wars Battlefront is the biggest Star Wars game launch, we're interpreting that to mean it's sold over 1.5 million units already. Battlefront has done that.
We actually reached out to our buddies at Superdata Research to check our own research, and their sales estimates fall in line right there.
Yeah.
Superdata estimates that Battlefront sold 1.1 million units in its first 3 days on the market, broken down to 450,000 on console and 600,000 on PC.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yes, 1.1 million is less than 1.5 million, but we're comparing a week's worth of Force Unleashed sales, which is 1.5, to 3 days of Battlefront sales, which is 1.1.
In all likelihood, Battlefront sales are well beyond 1.1 million at this point, but we're working off estimates. Only EA has the actual data.
Yeah, so when it comes to sales estimates, the game's doing decently for its launch week, right, Lawrence?
Yeah. This is the early adopter crowd. The big thing to remember is this is a huge property, so another surge of sales will probably hit once the movie comes out and parents flock to physical retailers to buy the dumb little discs for the little turds of kids that they have just clamoring for fucking presents.
I thought you just talked about how much you love children and about you.
No, I want to punch them with Connect Star Wars. They should get that instead. Man, that would be awesome. You want the Star Wars game? I got it for you. Mom, this is not Battlefront. It says Star Wars right there. Mom!
Is he doing his own show?
Welcome back to Lawrence Rant, starring Lawrence. Don't let them babysit your kids. Shit.
But what about EA's second claim that Star Wars Battlefront set digital sales records across the entire company?
Right, there's almost no digital sales data available for any publisher. Those numbers have been historically never been reported, ever.
Really
they just
weird.
do not do that. So as such, we can't use it to triangulate our guess on Battlefront's performance.
We can, however, provide some context on how much money that means EA is raking in. So over the past year, EA has announced multiple times how profitable the shift to digital sales has been for the company.
Yeah, over half, in fact, 52% to be exact, of EA's revenues come from digital sales.
Wow.
And that number is growing dramatically year over year.
Yeah, profits at EA grew an astounding 7.6% as of Q4 2015, that's fiscal. And in the next quarter, 77% of the company's revenue came from digital sales. 77% of EA's revenue came from digital sales. That's amazing.
Yeah, so simply put, more and more of EA's revenues are coming from digital sales. If Battlefront set digital sales records for the company, odds are that means EA is ranking in dump trucks full of revenue from that title.
And that's even before any DLC is released for the game, which also makes up the lion's share of the company's digital revenues. We're not even to the DLC yet.
They're the DLC monster.
Yeah.
So add it all together, and the situation isn't as bleak for Battlefront sales as it may have seemed.
Sure.
Right, Lawrence?
Yeah, not only did it clear 1.5 million in its launch week, assuming that all of our math is correct, but it's also setting records in the most profitable income category for the entire company.
Wow.
And like Bruce said, this is before DLC. Publishers are starting to treat games as platforms to sell additional content after you've already bought it. Just look at Destiny. Like, it came out, it sold pretty well, but they've already hit you with a couple of big expansion packs, and that's kind of how this is seen. Battlefront's exactly the same way. You got a game as it is now, but it's more like a marketplace to sell you more maps, and that's just going to make EA a lot of money.
Also, keep in mind the same company that dropped $1 billion down just to secure the rights for the Madden franchise.
Yeah.
They want the exclusive. Right now, they have that for Star Wars.
They do for 10 years, I think.
So they put a lot of money into this franchise, and they're going to be investing into Star Wars video games for a very long time. So they may have not cleared a lot of money on this one, but moving forward, they made a smart business move, and that's why you're seeing all these DLC packs and why the game ends up being so expensive and why it feels so rushed. I think in other aspects where like they got out, and it is actually way more polished than I thought it would be. I'm ranting, but anyway.
Adam, you gotta stop. You're getting in the way of the angry rants. We gotta start being mad at this video game. It's stupid, and they're gonna force us to pay for DLC. And
you guys can't even find heroes for some reason.
You can't even find the heroes.
You want to know the problem? You want to know the real problem?
What's the problem?
I got Fallout 4, I got Halo 5, and I have Overwatch. I don't know where Battlefront fits into my
Overwatch
life.
isn't even out yet.
Yeah, but I got it.
How's everybody doing on their Battlefront diorama?
I have 0 of 20.
Ooh.
0 of 20. I really need to collect those characters. Lawrence, you get any
Diorama.
characters yet in that
Oh
diorama?
man, I tried doing some of the solo stuff and
Star Wars Amiibos?
They're Star Wars Amiibos, but digital.
Yeah.
It's just a picture.
Yeah.
Is a picture naked?
So it's okay for Nintendo to do it, but when EA does it, they're fucking Hitler.
BAFTA front.
Man, I can't wait to get to the Pilgrim Turkey Day. We're almost there.
shut up, Benson.
It's when we just ram that Mayflower right up an Indian's asshole and we're like,
Did we
give
do
me your
that?
turkeys.
Man, that was cool.
Yeah, America's awesome.
We were action heroes.
with our muskets.
Now we just whine about video games.
Remember when Wednesday Addams got sent to camp and then they did the Thanksgiving thing, and you're like, if there's at summer camp, why the fuck are they doing a Thanksgiving thing?
I don't think I asked that question because I didn't care.
Oh,